tragedies over the years are now being re-engineered by a team of experts who will give it a permanent fix. The Ditchamso drainage system is also on our list of priorities, and a bid has been put out for experts to transform it into a more efficient system. Our ongoing coastal protection projects are proceeding in Adjoa in the western region, Lekusu, New Takrady Phase 2 in Elmina, Dansoman, Axim, and Disco. This year, we'll also begin others in Amalfo Kuma, Dansoman Phase 2, Komenda, Anomabo, Cape Coast, Mensa Guinea, Ningo Pram Pram, New Takrady Phase 3, Apam, Kokrobite, Botiano, Blekusu Phase 2, and Abuaze Shama Phase 2, Maritime University, Nongwa, Takrady, Enyanui, and Isipon. We're starting with the completion of the many abundant projects dotted around the country. A consortium of local banks has raised $51 million to fund the completion of the social housing units started by the Akufo administration in 2006 at Koforidua, Tamale, and Ho. The Saglemi housing project, started under the last NDC government, is also high on our list of priorities this year. The 5,000 units it offers will boost our housing numbers. We're therefore establishing the value for money issues surrounding the project in order to reconcile the number of houses built with the schedule of payments made and accelerate delivery. We know election years will come around and there will be pressure on government to splurge, and persuasive arguments will be made that you have to stay in government to be able to implement your programs. However, I am bent on running a responsible administration, mindful of the next generation and not merely the next election. Ghana's hard-working nurses and doctors will do their best, as they have always done, to make sure we get the best health care. But it behoves on each one of us to look after ourselves better. Apart from exercising and taking our regular health checkups seriously, it is imperative that we eat healthy diets to prevent diseases that are caused by short choices of nutrition. The most exciting news on the housing landscape, though, is the drafting of plans to regenerate Nima, which holds the dubious title of being Accra's first slum. It has, of course, progressed very much since those early days, even if it has been unable to shake off the urban slum title. I'm a proud resident of Nima myself. And I'm extremely excited that the regeneration plans will not dislodge or dispossess residents, but rather transform Nima into a well-laid-out residential area with full amenities. I'm looking forward to it. Good work that is being done by the Ministries of Inner City and Zongo Development and Works and Housing. But there are things that many of us do that will put off any visitor from visiting our country, no matter how attractive the geography or the history might be. I refer especially to some of our sanitation habits. Mr. Speaker, public resources must be channeled into ventures that generate wealth and not spent on avoidable expenditures. The cost of clearing and cleaning up our cities and towns after those who litter has become prohibitive. The littering habit seems to be more predominant in the cities and urban areas and, mercifully, largely absent in the villages. Last year, I reiterated before you my pledge of improving sanitation in the country and making Accra the cleanest city in Africa by the end of my term. I said by the end of my term. Mr. Speaker, there's been a significant improvement in sanitation, even though I acknowledge more can be done. However, this is currently the state of play. We've witnessed an increase in the coverage of solid waste management from 16% to 53%.
And that's President Akufo-Addo on the state of the nation in 2019. We'll take you back to Parliament. Roland Walker is on standby, still talking about the economy.
Of that interaction was with Dr. Lord Mensah, the Finance Department of the University of Ghana, and of course where the forecourt of Parliament House is where, as the Constitution mandates, the state of the nation by the President needs to be delivered. And this is the fourth and the last year of the first term of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of our Republic. And let's continue all these conversations. We do have the Member of Parliament for Bantama, member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Daniel Ochemabwaje is a regular on the channel as well as on the AM show. And he's here. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Roland.
And I see that you've been doing a number of speaking. And your speaking point this morning, as you've decided is on which of the sectors that you want to take a look at?
I mean, yes, bring it on. Mostly I speak for the government on finance and economy, but of course, most of the policies that the government is pursuing, we are following, so we can speak to some of them, yes.
One of the critical things that government had decided to do was to make sure that the related issues of small-scale mining were streamlined, because if you look at the bit of finance, and you speak on finance for government, it was supposed to be streamlined so then it's well regulated, creates the employment which could be tracked, and then also the resources are also tracked as well.
Yeah.
But it looks like the commitment was there, but the implementation and the processes, looking at what has happened over the last week or two or three, seem to have taken everything out of gear.
Well, I'm sure you're probably referring to the what do you call it,
the menace on Galamsey.
The Galamsey issues,
yes,
in terms of the equipment and all those things.
Well, we'll come to the equipment, but generally, the policy direction, the management of it.
But Roland, let's fix the facts. This issue of illegal mining, has existed for so many years. It's a fact. It is only President Akufo-Addo who decided to say, I am going to deal with this. It took a little bit of time to come up with plans to see how we can turn this, this Galamsey issue into even a job creation opportunity where we can have people do this legally. A number of interventions have been established. People went for training. We want to try to take this Galamsey from illegal mining to legal mining, where we have the community getting involved and do proper mining. Who doesn't want to get the money from the ground? I mean, everybody does. So if in the process there have been issues, excavators have been seized and probably some gotten missing, and I can assure you that it's not every one of them that is probably stolen. Some of them were just probably not properly accounted for.
Really?
Yeah, because I was on a show with one of the
This point you've made is inconsistent with what the revelations or the information.
I mean, you can say that. I was just giving a fact that some of them, right? I was actually on a show in Kumasi with one of the DCs, and he said, as a matter of fact, there were some excavators that were collected and deposited in some DCs, some of the district assemblies, that were never transported, because the task force were expecting that the DC will find money.
Part of the so-called missing excavators?
They are.
So they could be accounted for by with the DCs.
So even though people are throwing numbers out there and here and there, but I can assure you, with the discovery of what the issue is, people are beginning to show where they are. We're not saying that some are not missing.
Somebody will say this is an afterthought in the first place.
It's not an afterthought. We are looking for those things. We are looking for investigation is ongoing, meaning that we are looking for them. If you can find them wherever they sit, then we can fetch them to where they're supposed to be in the first place. So just because people are throwing numbers and the opposition is trying to talk about this national issue in a way that they think they can make some points, some gains out of it, it's not the truth. It's not good in the Ghana's interest. So the president said, let's deal with this issue. But of course, MPP is not working with all angels, right? Yes, I have the policy, I have the intentions, I'm doing some interventions, I have interministerial committee that is working this. But in the process, if there are problems, we'll fix them as we go.
Because, look, we all have to be realistic.
Yes.
When the interministerial committee started its work, 12 months down the line, the color of the Pride and the other tributaries of the other rivers were doing well. We're getting clean.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden we had the changes in the committee structure. Charles Bissue had an issue, and subsequently, and now we have difficulties. The minister has been well implicated in this, even though not directly. We've had leaked tapes, leaked videos, interactions in which his voice was heard. We've had names mentioned, etc. That shows some complicity of an oversight ministry, an oversight minister.
But Roland, are you saying because of some of this development and these challenges, we should let it go? We should just throw our...
That's not the point of discussion.
No,
everybody knows that galamsey or illegal mining is a big problem.
Because we do. And this is a national issue. It's not MPP NDC issue that should be politicized the way our friends are doing it. Yes, our intention is to fix the problem the way we know how, the way we know better. But just because there have been problems that have developed along the way with the implementation, does not mean the whole idea should be
You communicate for government.
Yes, I do.
On your communication synopsis, or in your communication synopsis, has any government ministry related to the sector, oversight or overseeing galamsey, able to give you how many excavators were seized, and till now, how many have gotten missing?
There are numbers out there been thrown out.
So there are no formal figures?
Some say, I mean, that's what the investigation is now ongoing. Some say in the range of 300, which is what is coming to us. Some say 500. But regardless the number, it is not even good for 5 or 10, excavators to get lost. If you took them, do proper accounting of it. If people have taken it or have stolen it, let's make sure that there are consequences. And we are open to that.
Well, the consequences are
but let me say this.
The actions will be taken, and it is because there's complicity of individuals the president had entrusted to take decisions on his behalf in relation to a policy direction he was towing.
But you cannot tell me that if you have a policy direction, you may not come across challenges in implementation. I mean, it happens almost everywhere.
These are not mere challenges, are they?
No.
We're talking gold.
No.
A lot of money illegally going down the drain.
Nobody is saying that it's a mere challenge. But it's a challenge that can be dealt with. So you may see a huge problem, and I do see it as well, except to say that I am more forward-looking than what can we do to improve the process of the issues that have gone wrong. What can we do? What lessons can we pick up? For me, these challenges that have come up present opportunity for improvement. Come on, it's a human institution. You are dealing with human beings. You are dealing with processes. It's not an event. It's not a one-time issue. Definitely, some people will...
Apart from that, investigation should go on.
Yes.
What's now the direction of the presidency in dealing with this?
I'm sure today, definitely, this is a current and topical issue. I'm sure the president is going to definitely touch on it. And it's better for us to hear him say what he's going to do going forward. But from where I sit and from where you sit, I want us to just take note of the fact that, one, this is a good policy that the government tried to do to deal with these environmental challenges that associate illegal mining. Let's convert it from illegal mining, galamsey, to formalize small-scale legal mining. That is a beautiful idea. Let's make sure that we stop those who are doing the illegal mining. Yes, in the process, we've had issues. Excavators have been stolen.
institutions.
The media
and those public institutions are headed by people entrusted by or with power by the president.
No
and they
problem.
have failed the president.
That I can take it. Some people, not all of them, some people have failed the
Shouldn't
president.
the minister be resigning by now?
I can't say for that. If the investigation shows that he was the person that did that, I think at the right time things will happen. But I just want us to focus on the fact that these challenges are opportunity for improvement. Okay, and the people that are involved and may have corrupted themselves in the process or may have done something wrong, they should face the law squarely. Okay, so we are not against chasing people or dragging people to court or prosecuting people. If at the end of the investigation, people have committed crimes and have stolen, excavators and have done wrong with the president policy, good, well-intended policy, then they should be dealt with.
Quite interesting.
And that's what it is.
Just a week or two ago, we had the second of the resource fair. The first was convened in Accra. The second was in the Ashanti Regional Capital. Indeed, Kumasi.
Yes.
Your constituency is in the capital, is that
Yes.
not it? And if you monitor the speech of the vice president,
Yes.
he spent a chunk of it, 40 or so minutes and over, on economy, because that's the strength of government, is that not it?
Sure. I mean, I think, Roland, I'm sure soon the president will be telling us. What I expect the president to be doing today is to do accounting to Ghanaians. Tell us about the state of the economy and tell us how you got us here.
Yeah.
The state of the economy, in my view, is stable, is strong.
In your estimation, couldn't have been better?
It could have been better, but don't forget, even our own promises, we score ourselves respectively. I mean, like, in a way to respect Ghanaians, that we have done about 78%. Without even considering the fact that we also had something we did not promise Ghanaians that we had to deal with. The broken economy, all right? The IMF program that we have to get us out of it. The various bills that we had to pay. The doomso that we had to fix. The financial sector that was broken that we have to fix. These were things that,
in your estimation, that
were inherited.
That is an inheritance left you, a broken economy.
A broken economy. So even though we had only 3 years so far, we have done 3 years, let's say 3 years and almost 2 months, we have been able to clean the mess that the NDC left for us to a large extent. The financial crisis, the energy crisis, the macroeconomic instabilities, the IMF program, we have gotten us out of it. And so if we should just add that which we inherited to what we promised, I'm telling you, we should be scoring the president around almost 80 to 85% for what we have done. Because even though we inherited this mess, these huge problems, we've been able to manage it gradually, and still fulfill 78% of our promises. Roland, I can tell you, no government in recent times, let's say in recent times, have been able to do all these within 3 years of your term. A whole lot of progress.
Okay. I'm just reading this from the IMF, and I'm just reading this for a point of reference.
Sure.
And it says Ghana recorded a government budget deficit equal to 3.8% of the country's gross domestic product in 2018.
Yes.
And this is supposed to be steadily a decline phase up to 2022. And they give all the related issues about the deficits and etc. But they said this is a projection that had been given since 2015.
Okay.
And so we had been on a trajectory since 2015, I believe, because of the various interactions with the IMF and the program of implementation that we had agreed on.
Okay.
That bears testimony to what the opposition has been saying all along.
No.
That if you look at the figures and the numbers, whether at the macros or the related indicators, they were pointing to a downward trend, if you do the trend analysis.
No, Roland, let me say this to you. In 2016, when we took over, the deficit was about
7.5.
No, it was 9.3.
Based on your estimation.
No, if I can recall the numbers.
If you take a look at the budget of 2017, 2016 deficit.
You're probably looking at rebased. I'm talking about prior to the rebase. It was 9.3. Okay. Now, that reckless spending under the NDC's watch is what led us into the IMF program, credit facility. So, during when we took over, and we came to understand that it was as a result of reckless spending, mismanagement, and inefficiency with the way the previous government run the economy that has resulted us going to IMF. Then not only are we going to be able to spend prudently, not only are we going to deal with the fiscals, spend within your means, not only are we going to do that, we should say never again to IMF program by passing a law. The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2018. At the end of December, we did it. And the idea is that if it is going to take us reckless spending to get us there, let us put a ceiling. And that any Minister of Finance who goes beyond 5% will face the law.
And that's why we have the projection 4.7.
So regardless of what we do as a nation,
for 2020,
we either have to mobilize more revenue and spend wisely, or we have to deal with cutting some unnecessary expenses and blocking the loopholes, both from revenue generation and spending of the money. So not only do we do, so if you tell us this projection that we are seeing is from 2015, obviously...
Well, I'm not the one saying it. The IMF is stating that.
But I'm just telling you that we did not only say that we have a projection.
They are looking at the trend analysis based on the program of action they had with the government of Ghana.
But somebody...
Not an NDC government per se, but the government of Ghana.
Yes, but because...
And based on the policy implementation, the agreed expenditure, fiscal management, they said and had projected this is how the trend was going to be.
No, but that's okay. Somebody has to drive it. Somebody has to drive it. Go and look at the history. And the NDC is all over. You may have projections, but it never happens. And us, we accepted it, and we are living it, and we are even backing it up with law. Okay? Making it illegal for you to exceed a certain limit. So you can project. But if you have a bad government in the driving seat, a government that manages the country like autopilot, you are going to exceed these numbers. If you're telling me from 2015, okay, to 2022, how come the 2016 did not meet that criteria? How come the 2016, whether it's 9.3 or 7.8, how come it did not meet that criteria? So you can project. But it depends on who is in the driving seat. If you have NDC government in the driving seat, forget about it.
Can we stick with the rebase numbers?
Okay.
So that it makes the argument fair.
It's okay. But because...
Equity.
But
it's not... because for political communication, let's be real.
Let me say this. Even under NDC, the economy was rebased. When they took over, the economy was... So as for rebase, it will happen because there are certain economic activities that are not counted as part of our GDP. For instance, as I speak to you, maybe I'm not even sure if they are capturing the revenues coming from Aboboya and all those motorbikes that are running illegally here and there. Those revenues are not being counted. So any government that takes over power after some time, you're allowed to account some of the things that have not been part of your gross domestic product. So regardless of how you look at it, I'm telling you that happens almost under every government. So the point I'm making is that, yes, deficit is 7.6. Yes, it's projected to come down to whatever the number is, 3.9 or 3.6. But you need a disciplined government, a government that knows what it's doing to be able to get you those numbers.
Over the last 3 years, one thing that government has started or credited itself for are the various initiatives, one district, one factory, planting for food and jobs, etc. But if you do the extrapolations from the budget, you get every indication that the value chain, apart from the production side, is not met. For example, we had enough rice grown over the last farming period. We had glut in excess. You do understand. 600,000 tons of rice were said to have been grown, or 650,000. We also needed to meet up with a lot more exports, etc. But the farmers had been there. We hadn't made sure we made provisions for them. We had enough growth. and tomatoes, etc. It means that industry needs to be developed at that end.
Yes.
But it looks like what the trend has been, and it's not only peculiar to an MPP government, our government in the Fourth Republic, we've always depended on mining and the other extractive industry for growth, more so for oil. Now, this is PricewaterhouseCoopers' own indicators from the budget.
Yeah.
Growth in the industry sector slowed in 2019 and is expected to further slow down marginally in 2020. And they add, in 2019, the industry sector was estimated to grow at 8.8% against the targeted growth of 9.7%. And it's expected to even go lower in 2020 because no new oil production was expected. My question is, we seem to be dependent on the extractive industry while we promise the Ghanaian that we will have one district, one factory, we will meet the timelines to have enough of them. When we have planting for food and jobs, rearing for food and jobs, then these will feed industry. But it's been slow.
But, Roland, the industrial development is not an event. It's a process, all right? Now, I'm sure people are drinking Akufo-Addo juice, right? It's a process. It's not one-time event. And don't forget, our policy of one district, one factory, is also private sector driven. I don't know if you understand. Private sector driven is that because we know that in this world, private sector is the engine of growth. And in most cases, government institutions really don't work efficiently. So we want this initiative to be driven by the private sector, right? And so what is happening right now is that if you have a sector or a district where there are no promoters, business promoters or entrepreneurs or private entities who are interested in going into that area, you probably may not have one of these things happening. So the speed and the frequency and the number of factors that can be developed to some extent will also be determined by how many private sector people are interested in where and what. So I think it's a process, and I believe it's a good initiative. The whole idea is based on the premise that for far too long, our economy has been dependent on raw material exports. We do not add values to what we produce here. We don't even eat most of the things we produce. So let's ensure that we change the dynamics or the composition of the economy by beginning to industrialize somehow, so that when we are selling cocoa, instead of selling cocoa beans with about 20 or 10% of it being wasteful, then you can send a processed cocoa bean that is even that can even add much more value. So it's a clear vision. Initiative have been done. Some companies have been established. Some private companies have also been supported. And even yesterday at the finance committee, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, we approved about $100 million facility for Exim Bank to continue to push. So it's not like it's left alone, it's not growing, but of course, these are all projections also. They are budgets. You can either meet them or exceed them, or for one reason or the other, you may not be able to meet them. So I believe the government is really on track. Yeah. And that is why President Akufo-Addo is saying that I need 4 more years to be able to do a lot of the things I've promised you. 4 more years to do more. He's not asking this out of just out of a vacuum. Yes, out of a vacuum.
Because he's done work.
Because he's done well. One good term deserves another. Because he's done well, he's asking for more. So some of this initiative can come to completion.
Yeah, you're still watching our live coverage where the forecourt of Parliament is where we're going to have the State of the Nation address. It's a constitutional provision. And look, it's required that the president in Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution does this. So we've been the president in the Foreign Republic doing this each year. This is the 4th time President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will be doing this, the last for this term, for his term, first term. And, well, whether you go for second term or not, it will depend on. Okay, he's going?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have member of Parliament for
Ghanaians
Ras Mubarak right here. Ras, how are you? Yeah, good to see you too, my brother. Yes. And you've been listening to Ochema Boaje.
No, I didn't quite get a lot of the things.
It was about how the management of the economy has been so good, for which we've had good accolades, great accolades for Ghana at the international level, and it's all because of the proper fiscal regimes and the management that has been done by the Akufo-Addo-led administration. What do you think?
I'll tell you what, this is the last State of the Nation address of the president, hopefully for this time and forever. Now, if they get another opportunity to rule this country, they're going to run this country to the ground. On every score, on all the indicators, there's been monumental failures. And you see that in the various key performance indexes. In the area of peace and security, for instance, the first duty of every administration is to secure the peace and security of its people. They have failed woefully on that score.
How?
Look at the insecurity in the country. You know, look at the assault on men and women in uniform. Assault on men and women, the same people who are expected to protect us. For the first time, we are seeing rising assault on key institutions of state. The first time in the history of the Fourth Republic that you have seen supporters of a particular party go to a courtroom and disrupt the court process. It happened in the Ashanti region. We saw a senior security officer in the Ashanti region assaulted. And you can't have these things happen when you promise the people that you're going to secure their peace and security. Woefully failed in the area of corruption and good governance. You've seen the mounting cases of corruption allegations that have been brought against their own people, and the inertia and the inability of the president to address and have these people prosecuted. One would expect that by now, the Minister for Science and Technology would have resigned. There's clearly zero principle. To have been paid by the taxpayers' money to stop Galamsey and to have had the kinds of issues we saw in that tape where the minister was alleged to have colluded in perpetuating Galamsey. And just on the basis of principle, the minister is still holding on to his job, clearly tells you that there is zero commitment to, stopping the Galamsey menace in the country. So it's been one bumbling failure after the other. Where are the district factories? Where are the dams? In Kumbu constituency, for instance, there are 117 communities. And you know what they did? They came and resuscitated a dam that was constructed under a champon in 1974. They dug it out and claimed that they had constructed a new dam in Kumbungu. And that is just one out of 117 communities.
But it was not working. So
no, it was
working. Work done on an existing structure.
And as a matter of fact, the way they've done it has even resulted in flooding last year. Yes, it had resulted in some flooding last year. So clearly, we are not seeing the commitment. Look at the attempt to get the Electoral Commission to push through, quote-unquote, reforms that are not necessary.
That creates insecurity?
That creates a lot of insecurity. We are currently in February going into March. We are getting into the farming season for many Ghanaians. A majority of Ghanaians are farmers, right? To say that you want to register new voters, you want to bring about a new voters register at a time when Ghanaians would be very busy at their workplaces.
But it's happened before.
No, listen.
When last time we compared, was it in 2012?
In 2012 it happened, but there had been processes. Okay, there had been processes in the lead up to the registration. For instance, the procurement for new equipment for the 2012 registration was done in 2011. What procurement have they done? Have you seen any advertisement on their website, in the dailies, on Joy FM for the procurement of new equipment? Absolutely not.
Have you gone to the website of the PPA, the procurement?
No, but ordinarily they are enjoined by law, apart from the website of the PPA, to advertise in a national daily. According
to the procurement act, yes.
Of national circulation. I haven't seen any advertisement in the dailies, right? And I'm saying it's a subtle attempt at voter suppression. You know why? They are not even doing they don't intend to even do the registration in every polling station. They want to cluster it. So you would have people from, say, if this let's use Accra for example. You would have people from, say, Kwashiman going to Dakuman to register. For those who have...
How did you get this information? You haven't even started the process.
It's clustering. That's what they said. They said they were not going to do it in every polling station. So in Kumbugu, for instance, I have overseas communities. You would have people coming all the way from the overseas communities. You know the inconvenience. So you would have many people not actually taking it seriously. And there are no guarantees that the equipment would be healthy enough, would be functional enough because of the vagaries of the weather, right? So, of course, there's a lot of heat up north currently, even in the south, okay? These equipment are supposed to be in a condition that would help them function appropriately. You would not have those kinds of conditions when the EC intends to roll out. And even if you did, you are likely to have the process rained off.
Did you hear the president the last time saying, look, there will not be any mayhem? And I know that was a jab at former President John Dramani Mahama because the papers then started speculating and that there will not be any mayhem post December 7, 2020. And we know that these are matters you are espousing in relation to issues of security and trust concerning the work of the Electoral Commission in its own decision to compile a new voters register.
The claim about not being a mayhem is a complete farce.
Why?
It's a farce because we have examples of mayhem. Look at what happened in Ayawaso West Wagon, where a sitting member of parliament was assaulted, where people were shot, where compensation has not been paid as we speak. And you tell us that there will not be mayhem. Clearly, you see an attempt to prepare the grounds for mayhem. Another example, I'm sure you might have followed a parliamentary debate yesterday in respect of the Ministry of Aviation, where McDan, a Ghanaian business owner who is also a member of the MPP, you know, has been given exclusive access to run Terminal 1.
You're not saying it's wrong. If you're a member of a political party and you're a businessman, you shouldn't.
I'm saying that the manner in which it's been done calls for serious and grave concern. It calls for serious and grave concern because the minister on the floor of Parliament yesterday himself admitted that there are lapses in the way McDan, you know, is handling affairs at Terminal 1. And you know what that means? I'm not saying it is happening, but there's the possibility of people carting out drugs because, you know, they are responsible for private jets coming in and going out. And if there are lapses, national security, immigration don't have access. And if there are lapses...
Is it the same terminal?
Or Terminal 1, the old the domestic terminal. That is what they are using for private jets and some amount of cargo.
They are managing the hangar, everything.
They are managing it, and we are exceedingly concerned.
But which one also is in relation to how for us to fulfill the aspect of the U.S. military agreement?
It's the same from the same terminal.
So you don't
and there's even a problem with that.
You think a U.S. managed or an assigned terminal, whether managed by private facility, will be used and based on your words to smuggle in drugs,
and not just drugs, but
that's speculative. You're
guns and ammo. Parliament, sir. Not just drugs, but guns and ammo. I'm saying
a U.S. military facility.
No. Listen to me carefully. In view of the lapses, as admitted by the honourable member for aviation on the floor of Parliament yesterday, that there were indeed lapses. And I'm saying, in view of these lapses, you could have situations where people are bringing in guns and ammo. You could have instances where people are carting in drugs or sending out drugs. And we ought to be worried and ought to be careful. The joint cooperation agreement was between the government of Ghana and the government of the United States of America. It wasn't between the government, it wasn't between the US of A and McDan, right? And we are extremely worried because the person has proven to be very partisan, okay? The person has proven not to be professional. Otherwise, the minister, the company that is running.
The company is partisan or the shareholder of the company?
The owner of the company is partisan.
That makes the company partisan?
Otherwise, why do we have the lapses we have seen?
All you're saying is that it smacks of some conflict of interest issues?
No, all I'm saying is that we have cause to worry because the potential for carting in drugs is very, very high. the potential for smuggling guns into our country to create mayhem or to send them to the sub-region is extremely high. I trust men and women of the Ghana Immigration Service more than people McDonald hires to run Terminal 1. I trust men and women in national security more than people McDonald hires to run Terminal 1. And the nation must be worried. And we see a very calculated attempt by this administration at keeping its people at very strategic places with a view to taking over the state. So you see an attempt at state capture in every facet of the nation's institutions. And that should be worrying, especially in an election year, where the Electoral Commission hasn't given us reason enough, right, for a new register. If it's not broken, why fix it?
All this concerns of insecurity.
All these concerns of insecurity.
How do you react to this? Yesterday, I also followed the proceedings. Subsequently, I even saw the order paper. And then I listened, watched, and read through the reports subsequently by the media.
Basically, being a prophet of doom.
You are saying that all he's saying are just conspiracy theories?
Yes. You ask him questions about the economy, how far we have done, look at what is going. It's all opposition wahala, to be honest with you. All opposition wahala.
No, but you can't just dismiss his statement.
I am dismissing it because why are you afraid? Why are you afraid of a new register? Why are you even, when you could procure airbags in 2 days and get approval in Parliament in 2 days?
The airbags was procured way back.
And I'm just telling you.
If you look at what the reports have been.
The procurement process they went through was 2 days.
2009.
2 days.
And up to 2015.
Allow the institutions to work. Anybody who files a new register does not love Ghana.
But they are stakeholders. Political parties are stakeholders.
I say they don't. I'm not saying they're not. I say they don't love Ghana. To me, let me just give you one simple example. In 2016 election, it was a heavily contested election. There was a president that was trying to go to his second term from one that he inherited, to an opposition that is trying to come to power after 8 years of being in opposition. That election, to me, in Bantuma, we recorded a history of almost 89%. From 1996...
You mean turnout?
Turnout, no, votes, percentage of votes that we won. We recorded almost 89%, 88.4%, the highest in our history since 1996. We did 7 months house to house to record that. It was very, very serious election for us. Prior to me coming to lead the people of Bantuma, it was 83%. I'm just only saying this to support the fact that this was a heavily contested election. At the end of the day, do you know what the EC said? The turnout is low. It's only 69%. So the question that came to mind is, so where are the 31% of Ghanaians?
Have you looked at the overages? The average of election turnouts in Africa and the rest of the best.
I'm not talking, even in Ghana, it was one of the, I didn't say it for the EC. He said the turnout is low, 31%, and therefore the question is...
Oh, are you expecting that you have 89%?
Because of it was heavily contested. So the question is, why are the 31% of Ghanaians that were registered to come and vote? Okay, assuming some people were sick. Assuming even 19% was sick. What is that 20%?
So do I get the understanding that your party is supporting the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register so that we get a turnout that you think is a reflection of the voter population?
Not a turnout per se, so that we can clean out some of what we think are bloated. Either they are dead. Is
it one of the points for argument?
No. This is my own argument.
Okay.
Because if 31% of Ghanaians did not show up to vote, who are they? Why are we leaving those people in the register?
But you don't need everybody to turn out to vote. That's the point.
Why are we leaving? No. Why are we leaving that opportunity for anybody to grab? Because the AC came out and said that the process for cleaning dead people out of the register is ineffective. Who is going to bring register a death certificate, posters, to say that this person and that person is dead when they can take advantage of it?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that if you want Ghana to continue to enjoy the peace, we have the opportunity. The EC has not broken any law. The government has provided the budget to do it. Why the fear? Are you saying that you are leaving the ghost name in the register?
That's a question you are asking. That's a question you are asking.
So that you can steal? Are you saying that you are leaving the
who can steal? The opposition?
Yes. Anybody who wants the register.
But why didn't they steal the last time?
Oh, they couldn't.
So why?
So what I'm saying, but let me even say this. Roland.
Yes, sir.
What is the guarantee that when there's a new voters register?
Aren't we belittling the argument?
We are not belittling the argument. There are many points of argument. I mean, the reasons they have given is plenty. I just only took it to this tangent so that we can even appreciate the fact that if it is bloated, let's clean it up. Because anybody who gets the opportunity to vote for ghost names will do it. So, no, let me finish. When you're talking about
his response
that is one of my arguments. This year has advanced a lot of it. For me, simply put, they've not broken any law.
And they should be made to continue.
Yes, they should be made to continue on. Otherwise, go to court. Sorry. Otherwise, go to court. Go to court.
I've noticed that many of you are in black. You're in a dark attire.
And we're also in white.
White.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen many of you, and I'm sure we'll show pictures of the chamber.
Yes.
In which the minority side is black attired, and the majority side is white attired.
Yes.
Any reasons why?
So let me finish. So rather
even before the State of the Nation,
we are celebrating the government
3 years
to address the needs of the people.
We are celebrating the fixing of the financial stability. We are celebrating
you've had your turn.
No, I didn't finish.
We are mourning the failure of the government to address the needs of the market women in Kejetia, of the workers and artisans in Swami, of the market women in Agbabloshi, of the people in Abosokai. We are mourning this government's crass incompetence at good governance. We are mourning the government's failures at dealing with Galamsey. I mean, look at where it's brought us.
What are the numbers?
After the promises to deal with it, look at where we are. You have instances where, please, you have instances, and I'm going to repudiate some of the things you've said. You've had instances where government has indeed given assurances that it was going to deal with the Galamsey menace, only for us to have a situation that is worse than they inherited. We've had instances where party apparatchiks have been indicted in this Galamsey business.
Why not?
We have had instances where the president had failed to rein in on his own people. What happened to Charles Bisu? What has happened to the Minister for Science and Environment? A very nice gentleman. One would expect that as a matter of principle, he would step aside.
That's why you're in black.
So in every score, on the economy, on peace and security, on good governance, on health, and
the neutrals say the economy is doing well.
Absolutely not. You just have to do a voice pop.
Have you gone through the Bank of Ghana Monetary Policy Committee report?
You just have to do a vox pop.
What's your response for
Roland, let me land on this. You just have to do a vox pop of the people in Kumbungu, of the people in Medina, in Agbabloshi, in Swami, to ask them whether they are feeling any changes. They'll tell you their situation is worse than,
just 30 seconds so that we'll take a break.
It's cheap. We are in white because we are celebrating the achievement of the MPP government under the leadership of President Akufo-Addo for how far, with God's grace, he's been able to bring the country. We inherited a country that was in a mess, choked by debt, NDC's incompetencies. We inherited a country that was managed by the white people, our finances, the IMF. We inherited a country that was full of unemployment for young people. A country that was totally broken. Hold on.
You should, look at the unemployment argument.
Look at the issues.
Roland,
look at
you should be able to say under the NDC, this was a level of unemployment.
I gave you the opportunity. We inherited a country that was, the financial sector was broken. So today, the whole world is saying that Ghana is fairly stable. we are doing well. We won't say we have done
Member of
everything.
Parliament for Bantama,
So
Daniel.
the issue that is what we
Ras Mubarak is a Member of Parliament for Kumbungu. And then from Wa Central, Dr. Rashid Palpo will be joining us next after this break. Do stay on.